Hello my lovely crafty friends, and welcome back to the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel. I hope that you've been doing well and that you've had some lovely crafty crochet moments in your life. My name's Clarissa Beth. Today I thought we would chat about traveling with crochet, and I even have a very exciting announcement for you. But before we get into the contents of today's video, I want you guys to do me a favor. I want you to close your eyes and imagine yourself going on vacation. Okay? So what's the first thing you think about? Do you think about how busy the airport's going to be? Do you think about how you're going to get to this place? Do you think about who you're going to see in this place? Do you think about what you're going to eat? Or are you thinking about what yarn you're going to be taking with you on vacation? If it's the latter, then I want you to put that yarn with its project in your suitcase. And I want you to close your suitcase and you're going on your vacation. And when you get there, on the last day, you open your suitcase to pack it all up again, you realize that your yarn is still exactly where you packed it 3 days ago. Now I know I'm not alone in this, that my first thought when I go on vacation is what crochet project I'm going to take, because I am a crochet designer who hopes to have a profitable crochet business. So crochet is always on my mind. But as a crafter, even before I became a designer, crochet was always on my mind as well. So because of this crocheting with while I travel dilemma, I wrote a blog post several years ago detailing my tips and tricks, or my thought process behind how I pack my crochet when I travel. So if you're interested in a more in-depth discussion of this, then you can check out the link in the description box and head over to my blog, and we can have a whole conversation over there about what our first thoughts are when we travel, what sort of yarny projects do we take. Now, the biggest takeaway that I want you to get from this video and that blog post is 2 questions. Just ask yourselves 2 questions when you're traveling. Number 1, where am I going? Unless, of course, if it's a surprise and they don't want to tell you the destination, then that's a whole other ballgame. But if you do know where you're going, please consider that carefully. And number 2, realistically, what crochet time do I count with? Let's be real. Be very real with yourself. Do you only count with the 2 hours of flight? Do you only count with perhaps a train ride, a 1-hour train ride? Perhaps you're driving and that is a 3-hour car ride and it requires you to navigate, in which case you might not be getting any crochet time at all. So these are the 2 questions that I want you to ask yourselves, because these are certainly the 2 questions that I asked myself when my husband and I were planning our honeymoon. And in case I haven't mentioned it before, or in case you haven't been here, we're going on a very postponed honeymoon. We got married in the 31st of May 2019. And we still haven't gone on our honeymoon. That is going to be happening now at the end of February. And we are heading a long way from home. We are heading to Japan. Of course, answering the 2 questions I just asked you to consider, I am going to Japan. Realistically, what crochet time do I count with? Well, at first I thought it was just my flight, which could be enough crochet time because it is a 20-hour flight going and a 17 or 15-hour flight coming back. So that is significantly, potentially, a lot of crochet time. But it's still not the only 2 things that I considered when I was planning what project I was going to be taking on this trip. And by the way, if this is going to bug you, I should say that technically we are time traveling to past Clarissa. This video goes live in March, but Clarissa is filming it on the 9th of February. I didn't want us to miss videos in March together, and I didn't know what time I was going to count with to actually be filming any other day, so here we are in the past together. Thank you for joining me. So as I was saying, I thought that realistically I only counted with that 20-hour flight going, which plenty of time to crochet, and the 15-hour or 17-hour flight back. But as we started getting more into the trip, as we started exploring places we wanted to go, I quickly realized that there is going to be plenty of train rides, and some train rides are 3 hours long. So that is extra crochet time I didn't know I counted on. So keeping this in mind, I wanted to take a project, just one or two projects that would be enough to satisfy my need to keep my hands busy when I am in unknown situations. And in this case, unknown situations is just, I get a little travel anxious. You know, I know I'm not the only person to do so, but yeah, I'm still very, very excited for this trip to Japan. My husband and I, my husband is sticking with trying to learn as much Japanese as possible. You know, useful phrases for when you're a tourist traveling new places. I don't always like to assume that everyone speaks English or Spanish, so I always make an attempt to learn what I consider to be the most important phrases in any language for when you're visiting a place, like hello, good morning, and I don't speak your language. Do you perhaps happen to speak any of these other two languages? You know, just things like that that let people know that you're respectful. And all right, let's wait for that motorcycle to go by. So we already have 3 things that we've considered in this traveling with crochet trip, a traveling with crochet video, right? Where we're going, realistic crochet time, and now we've added a project that will fulfill the first 2 requirements, which are place and time, essentially. So for this project that I'm taking with me to Japan, or that I've taken with me to Japan, I was of course considering the fact that I wanted something mindless enough that I could crochet on it without having to constantly read the pattern, but also something that I could wear at the end of this trip. So, having said that, before I mention the pattern that I'm going to be crocheting, I want to move forward with the little announcement because this announcement also influenced my decision to make this pattern. And that is that on the 12th of March, the day of my birthday, we're going to be starting a celebration crochet along. And this crochet along will run from the 12th of March to the 1st of May. And its requirements are that you crochet a crochet cakes pattern, design, or recipe. So anything that you can find in my blog, in magazines, in subscription boxes, my YouTube channel, anything that I've made that strikes your fancy, you are free to make it for this cal. You're not required to purchase a pattern. If you do decide to do so, it is with a great big thank you that thank you. So if you do decide to support my channel by purchasing a pattern, then thank you from the bottom of my heart. So where are we running this cal? This cal will be run on Instagram, mostly with a hashtag, but also I will have a Ravelry chatter thread which I will be participating in. And that Ravelry chatter thread, I know that some of you don't like to use Ravelry. I use it in dark mode, and I honestly still consider it the best place to purchase patterns from because they're right there in my library and I don't have to go hunting through all my purchases and reviews to try and find it. And Ravelry is just an easier place to manage crochet patterns. For example, one of the lovely makers in this YouTube channel messaged me about the monthly sweater pattern via Ravelry, with a suggestion that it would have been, or actually a helpful guide, that it would have been helpful for her to have a bit of a more detailed schematic in terms of the construction of the pattern. So I did that. I uploaded the PDF on Ravelry and I clicked all the boxes so that people would get the message that the pattern has been updated. And it's just that easy. Whereas if I would do that on Etsy, we don't really have a platform to communicate one-on-one or via a group. And also it's just not feasible to update every single person that has ever bought this pattern that there's been an update. So yeah, that's why I'm sticking with Ravelry for the chatter thread, but very fun as well. Another thing to celebrate is that the Discord for the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel and just Crochet Cakes in general will hopefully be going live that same week of the 12th of March. Now, for the 12th of March, I will still be in Japan with my husband, but we are coming back that week. So hopefully after 1 or 2 days of rest, I will be able to get my button gear and just full on be participating in the cal. And not only participating in the cal, but also releasing a very much loved pattern for you guys, and that is the Las Nubes top. while this pattern has been around for a while, it is getting a complete overhaul. I am regrading it, including more sizes, like from the 29-inch bust to a 62-inch bust. And I've also made the instructions more manageable, and I'm trying to divide the pattern and include as many pictures as possible so that it's very detailed for you guys. And I've also done a tutorial for the bottom portion of the top, because the last newest top is crocheted using reverse raglan technique, and I do have a separate video for that technique already released if you are interested in checking that out. I will also link it here in the iCard above. So with all this in mind of the celebration crochet along and me traveling with my crochet while the celebration crochet along starts, I really wanted to take a project that not only was it going to be appropriate for the time frame I have to crochet, not only would it be appropriate to crochet with it in Japan in terms of warmth, because Japan will be cold when we go over there to visit, so I wanted something warm in my hands, or on my hands. I wanted something warm to work with. So all this in mind, I chose to work with Elixir yarn, and this is a yarn from We Crochet, and it is a blend of alpaca, merino, and linen. So specifically, it is 45% alpaca, 35% merino, and 20% linen. And it is a beautiful greenish color. And I'm saying greenish color because it's called matcha, and there is green here, but you can also see blacks, and it makes the green more subdued. And that is because it uses black linen. So already 3 considerations here: the place I'm traveling to, the weather it will be, so I want some wool to keep my hands warm, the time frame that I have, which is 40 hours plus of crochet time. Plenty of time to work up something that I will potentially get to wear on the day of my birthday. That is the goal. So because of this, I have chosen to work up another one of my garment patterns, and that is the bloom top. The bloom top is a pattern that I designed for a spring summer issue of Radical Threads magazine. Now, I designed this pattern using very, very thin cotton yarn. It was almost thread, but this yarn dyer doesn't use that base anymore, so I wanted to have a base that was more readily available, which is why I went with We Crochet. And I wanted to have a base that, I don't know, would add a little bit of interest to the pattern itself, so that I wouldn't need to embellish it so much. And the original pattern calls for embroidery, but I'm thinking that by using this Elixir yarn just by itself, it adds quite a bit of depth to the pattern. I think the embroidery, I'll have to choose specific stitches, so not the daisy stitch which I used in the original pattern, but perhaps something else with a lot more volume to it. But that is something to consider for after the garment is finished. Let's get back into the reasons why I decided to travel with this specific crochet pattern. So I've already mentioned my want or need for wool, so there is that. The other thing to consider is that this is already a written pattern. All I need to do is take pictures of the magazine where the pattern is and have that with me right on my phone. I don't need to carry anything extra. And also it uses, as you can tell by what I'm holding, it's very small hanks of yarn. This is fingering weight yarn. So potentially I'll need 200 grams of this, and this is just in a very manageable size to fit into my carry-on, which is another thing to consider when you're traveling with crochet. Does your project fit into the carry-on, already taking into account all the other things that you're going to put in your carry-on? Okay, so this fits the bill. It fits the bill of my time frame. It fits the bill of the place where I'm going to, where I want to have nice warm hands. It fits the bill of being manageable. It's not worked in the round, so I will not need to carry this big chunky sweater. I will just need to carry pieces of the panel with me. So potentially if we're traveling on a train and we've forwarded our luggage, then perhaps I can include one of the panels or the rest of the materials in my luggage and only have with me the panel that I am working on. So that is another thing to consider. And of course, I've already mentioned the need for wool, because potentially when I finish this item, I want to wear it. I want it to be my birthday outfit. So I want to be nice, toasty, pretty, and warm. And this yarn just fit the bill. So I've already mentioned 4 things that we need to consider when we travel with crochet. And that is where we're going, the realistic crochet time that we have, the weather in the place we're going to visit. So in the case of Japan, it will be pretty cool over there, cool as in weather temperature wise. So I want some warmth with the wool. And portability of the project is also a big thing for me. So as I've mentioned, this pattern is worked in pieces. So I can keep just the piece that I'm currently working on in my project bag. And also I do not need so many materials to work up this project. So in my carry-on case, all I really need is my crochet hook and my yarn. And of course my cell phone, which has the pattern written on it. So these are some of the things that I consider when I travel with crochet. If you want to get a little bit more in depth, then please comment down below. Head on over to the link and read the blog post, which has other tips and tricks to consider and more of an explanation behind the thought process. I am very excited to be traveling, to take my crochet places with me again, and most of all, I am excited to have a finished piece by the end of this trip, in which I've imbued so many positive memories and just so many beautiful memories that whenever I look into this matcha bloom top, I will know that I crocheted it in Japan. I will know the temples we visited. I will know the places we ate. I will know all of this because this yarn will keep that story for me. And I am very excited to be recording my memories in such a way. And of course, I'm even more excited to be taking you along with me to record those memories, because I do hope to keep a little vlog going of my trip and my crochet progress with the bloom top to Japan. And before I go, I must not neglect to tell you that it is also very important to swatch. So in my case, since I am changing the yarn, I'm substituting the yarn. No, I'm actually literally changing the yarn. The pattern will be rewritten to work with this elixir yarn. I have already swatched and I've done my math because I do not want to be dealing with that while on my trip to Japan. I just want to be crocheting the happiest of memories into this yarn, which very appropriately is called matcha, and that one was an entire coincidence, guys. I did not plan to quite literally match my yarn to the tea I'll probably be drinking in Japan. That was completely unplanned. But yes, that is it for today, guys. Like I said, if you're interested in hearing more about traveling with crochet, then please head on over to my blog using the link in the description box below. If you liked my content, don't forget to give me a thumbs up or subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And if you do like my content, then consider going to my Ko-fi page and donating. Anyone that makes a donation, leave a comment and I will be reading that comment out here in my YouTube space for everybody to just share in the joy. So that is it for today's video. I hope that you join us for the celebration crochet along. I will leave a link to the Ravelry thread, which is already up and running, in the description box below as well. Don't forget to stay tuned to my Instagram for all that Japan goodness update, which I hope to do, perhaps not every day because we have to use a Wi-Fi card and we're trying to use it judiciously because, you know, we're going to be using a GPS and probably be using a lot of our Wi-Fi card to translate. So yeah. Anyway, thank you so much guys for being here with me today. I've enjoyed our time together and I can't wait to show you what I got up to in Japan, the crochet I took, how I styled it, and definitely to share with you all the lovely memories that have been crocheted into the second version of the bloom top. So thank you for being here. I'll see you later. Happy crafting!